catastrophic flash flood emergency has devastated southern Indiana, following unprecedented torrential rainstorms that dropped between 6 to 8 inches of rain within a mere 3-hour window. The sudden, violent deluge has triggered a historic crisis in Harrison County, with the neighboring towns of Lanesville and Corydon bearing the absolute brunt of the destruction. Entire downtown sectors have been completely submerged, prompting toxic hazards, triggering emergency roof rescues, and forcing the total evacuation of local communities. The disaster began in the late hours when a series of highly concentrated, slow-moving thunderstorms locked directly over Harrison County. This atmospheric stalling pattern created a training effect, where consecutive cells of torrential rain continuously dumped moisture over the exact same geographic footprint. Saturated soils absorbed the initial rain, but within the first 60 minutes, the sheer volume exceeded all local municipal drainage capacities. Final readings confirmed a staggering 6 to 8 inches of rainfall across localized corridors. The geographic terrain of southern Indiana, characterized by rolling hills and karst topography, accelerated the disaster. Runoff from higher elevations funneled millions of gallons of water directly into low-lying residential valleys and natural creek beds. Because the rain fell so rapidly, there was virtually no time for normal hydrological absorption. Small ditches transformed into raging rivers within minutes. Dry creek beds swelled into destructive torrents, tearing through backyards, ripping away fences, and pouring into the ground floors of homes before residents could formulate evacuation plans. The town of Lanesville experienced the most severe, life-threatening impacts of the storm system. What began as a standard severe weather warning rapidly escalated into a full-scale humanitarian and environmental emergency. In downtown Lanesville, the water rose with such terrifying velocity that standard street-level evacuations quickly became impossible. Within 2 hours of the storm's onset, water levels reached several feet high across main thoroughfares, submerging vehicles up to their rooftops and trapping citizens inside their properties. Emergency dispatch centers were quickly overwhelmed with hundreds of desperate calls from families trapped in single-story homes. Local authorities issued an emergency directive advising residents to immediately seek safety on their rooftops to escape the rising waters. First responders, utilizing heavily armored high-water vehicles and civilian boats, worked through the darkness to pluck stranded individuals, pets, and the elderly from roofs and upper-story windows. The structural damage to the town was severely compounded by an unexpected industrial hazard. As commercial zones and residential properties were inundated, several massive, heavy-duty propane tanks were ripped from their anchors by the powerful currents. These highly pressurized tanks began drifting down flooded streets like unguided missiles, striking submerged buildings, power poles, and vehicles. The situation turned catastrophic when at least one large tank suffered a massive structural failure due to a collision, resulting in a severe chemical leak. Shortly thereafter, the leaking gas ignited, causing a massive explosion that ripped through the floating debris field. The blast sent shockwaves through the flooded town, complicating ongoing boat rescue operations and forcing emergency personnel to navigate both deep water and active thermal hazards. Following the explosions and the unmitigated rise of the water, the Harrison County Emergency Management Agency issued a mandatory, complete evacuation order for the entire downtown area of Lanesville. Emergency shelters were rapidly established to house the hundreds of displaced residents. The primary sanctuary is located at Lanesville High School Gymnasium, 2725 Crestview Avenue, NE, Lanesville, IN 47136. The American Red Cross, alongside local volunteers, has converted the gymnasium into a fully functional crisis hub, providing cots, dry clothing, blankets, hot meals, medical triage, and psychological support for traumatized victims. As the torrential rainfall subsided over Lanesville, the massive volume of water moved downstream, creating a secondary disaster in the historic town of Corydon. Corydon's vulnerability stems from its proximity to local waterways, specifically Little Indian Creek. The millions of gallons of runoff generated in Lanesville funneled directly into the creek's watershed. The creek could not sustain the sudden influx. Within hours, Little Indian Creek breached its banks, sending a massive wall of muddy water pouring into historic downtown Corydon. The flooding was highly aggressive, overtaking structural retaining walls and transforming the scenic historic commerce district into an extension of the river. To preserve human life and prevent motorists from being swept away, local police, county sheriffs, and state troopers enacted an immediate, ironclad lockdown of the area. All entrances, access roads, and secondary routes leading into downtown Corydon were completely closed. Barricades were erected across major intersections, and emergency vehicles with flashing lights blocked incoming traffic. Business owners who had rushed to their shops to salvage inventory were ordered to evacuate immediately as water breached storefronts, ruining historic architecture, antique merchandise, and local administrative offices. While latest field reports indicate that the water levels in Little Indian Creek have slowly begun to crest and show preliminary signs of receding, the danger is far from over. Saturated fields, compromised structural foundations, and heavily damaged roadways mean that downtown Corydon remains entirely closed to the general public. Mud, shattered asphalt, and displaced debris litter the streets, presenting severe navigation hazards. The destruction in Lanesville and Corydon is indicative of a much wider, systemic infrastructure crisis affecting central, east central, and southern Indiana. The National Weather Service, NWS, has maintained active flash flood watches and warnings across a wide network of counties. Severe localized flooding, clogged municipal drainage networks, and water approaching residential doorsteps have been confirmed in several major areas, including Evansville Corridor, Madison County, Delaware County. The sheer weight and force of the floodwaters have caused severe infrastructure degradation across Harrison County. State Road 62, a vital transit vein linking these communities, has sustained severe structural tearing, asphalt stripping, and localized washouts. Multiple low-lying bridges crossing Little Indian Creek and its tributaries are currently closed pending rigorous structural integrity inspections by state engineers. Flooded electrical substations and snapped utility poles have knocked out electricity, clean water delivery, and internet connectivity to thousands of households across the region. The Indiana Department of Homeland Security, IDHS, in coordination with the National Weather Service, NWS Louisville, has issued strict, non-negotiable safety directives to all citizens in the impacted zones. Turn around, don't drown. This remains the single most important rule for motorist safety. A mere 6 inches of fast-moving water is completely capable of knocking an adult off their feet. 12 inches of rushing water can easily float, destabilize, and carry away most standard passenger vehicles, including SUVs and trucks. Chemical and electrical hazards. Citizens are strictly warned to stay out of standing floodwaters. The water is highly contaminated with raw sewage, agricultural chemical runoff, and toxic elements from the Lanesville propane leaks. Furthermore, submerged electrical lines pose an invisible, deadly risk of electrocution. Respect emergency barriers. Do not attempt to bypass official road closures or move emergency cones. Many roads that appear shallow on the surface have had the earth completely eroded underneath them, creating invisible sinkholes that can instantly swallow a vehicle. Meanwhile, flash flooding turned streets into rivers, trapped neighbors in their homes and businesses, and caused some to take shelter on rooftops. According to emergency management officials, live power lines were in the floodwaters, and 500-gallon liquid propane tanks were floating. I'm kind of worried about the people that are living down there right now, because no one really had any time to prepare for it this morning, resident Preston Martin said. It only happened within a couple hours. Rescue crews from multiple counties responded with boats to help reach people. Sergeant Ryan Hoochin, a spokesperson for the Highlander Fire Protection District, said emergency management officials were monitoring the situation after a warning came just after 11 a.m. from the National Weather Service. They were alerted that Lanesville had been flooded and they needed assistance from everybody in the area, Huchin said. Shelby Steele works at the First Harrison Bank on Highway 62 and told WDRB the bank was filling with water. Steele said 3 people were stuck in the bank, sitting on desks until first responders arrived in boats. She estimated more than 3 feet of water was rushing down Main Street. "It's rough," Steele said. "It about knocked me over." According to Houchin, there had been no reported rescues, no one had been pulled from their homes, and no one had been found in distress. There were reports of people being trapped in the Dollar General, at a local firehouse, and at a church. Officials said they were all safe but could not get out because they were surrounded by water. "Amazement," Huchin said. "I've been through a lot of floods in our area. This is the first time I've witnessed something like this before. It was kind of a shock. This is why when the National Weather Service puts out warnings, we need to pay attention to them." Officials asked those affected in the area to make plans in case they need to stay somewhere else for a day or two, depending on the impact of additional rain. "A lot of people have already been evacuated, so it's definitely scary thinking about what's going to happen to their homes and everything," resident Emily Carpenter said. The Lanesville High School gym is open for evacuees who need shelter. In a Facebook post, the Indiana State Police Sellersburg Post said troopers were on the ground and in the air over Lanesville, with additional resources ready to respond as needed. State police remind those in the affected areas to never drive or walk through floodwaters and to turn around, don't drown. "Just inches of moving water can carry away a vehicle," ISP said. "If you come to a flood-ed or barricaded roadway, find another route." Police went house to house ensuring everyone was safe after the water receded. More than 40 million people across the Great Plains and the Midwest are on alert Tuesday for severe weather, including what authorities warn could be life-threatening flash flooding in Kentucky and Indiana. Flash flood warnings are in effect for parts of Kentucky and Indiana, including the city of Lanesville, Indiana, which recorded 8 inches of rain in a matter of hours on Tuesday afternoon, officials said. Rescue crews with boats were responding on Tuesday afternoon to multiple counties in Indiana, where there are reports of people stranded on the roofs of homes due to the floodwaters, ABC affiliate station WHAS in Louisville, Kentucky reported. "My car was halfway submerged in water. It's just been chaos for the past 2 hours." Renea Clark, a resident of Lanesville, told WHAS. A level 3 out of 5 threat for more severe weather is in effect Tuesday afternoon for the Dakotas, Nebraska, and parts of Kansas into Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Widespread destructive wind gusts, large hail, and possibly strong tornadoes are expected in parts of the plains on Tuesday, with the greatest threat of tornadoes occurring in North Dakota. The heavy rains across the Great Plains and Midwest came a day after destructive thunderstorms hit parts of Kansas, including the city of Salina. Wind gusts of over 100 miles per hour on Monday damaged homes and buildings in the Salina area and toppled trees and power poles, causing numerous power outages, according to ABC affiliate station KAKE in Wichita, Kansas. More severe weather was hitting Kansas on Tuesday. Flash flooding was reported early Tuesday morning along the Kansas I-70. Some places along the I-70 corridor reported up to 6 inches of rain overnight. The foul, wet weather is expected to move into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region on Wednesday and Thursday. Large cities across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, including Minneapolis, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Des Moines, Chicago, and St. Louis, are all in play for rounds of severe storms on Wednesday and Thursday that could bring destructive winds, large hail, flash floods, and possible tornadoes. The severe storms in the Midwest are being fueled by hot weather Tuesday afternoon and into the evening. Heat advisories are in effect for dozens of states from Minnesota down to Mississippi, as heat index values, or what the temperatures feel like, are expected to reach 100 to 110 degrees. By Thursday and into Friday, the heat will start to shift to the east, with temperatures along the I-95 corridor expected to climb into the low 90s in New York City and Boston, the upper 90s in Washington, D.C., and 100 in Raleigh, North Carolina. By Friday, severe storms are expected to move into the northeast, including New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Washington, D.C., and Charleston, West Virginia.